Good afternoon. You all look like bandits. Yeah, I know you are bandits. We're here to observe the 19th anniversary of the attacks on September 11th. On that day, enemies of America assaulted our homeland in an attempt to divide and destroy our nation. 19 years later, the need for strong, principled leaders in uncertain times remains. It is therefore my pleasure to welcome to the Citadel a South Carolina native and public servant of almost 40 years. Senator Lindsey Graham was born in Central South Carolina and holds a Bachelor and Juris Doctorate degree from the University of South Carolina. He served in the South Carolina Legislature, the United States House of Representatives, and since 2002, the United States Senate. Senator Graham is the chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary, and in 2004 became the senior senator from South Carolina. Senator Graham also served as an Air Force Judge Advocate General, including time in Iraq and Afghanistan. He retired from the Air Force Reserve in 2015 as a colonel. Senator Graham has dedicated his life to the service of South Carolina and America. On behalf of the Board of Visitors, the faculty, staff, and the Corps of Cadets, the best Corps of Cadets in the United States, it is my honor to welcome Senator Lindsey Graham.
Thank you. I hope this is a good reason to get out of class. If you skipped a class, I hope I make it worth your while. I am honored that you would come and listen to what I have to say because I was thinking, General, 19 years ago, do you remember where you were at?
Yes, sir, right outside the Pentagon.
Well, let's tell you about a little bit about General Walters. I knew him when he had a 1-star. I met him in Afghanistan, and I just want to thank you, sir, for your service and your family's service. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. So I was thinking about where could I share my thoughts, and the Citadel was the most logical answer, given who you are, what you stand for, and where some of you will be going. The one thing I like about the Citadel, the values have stood the test of time. All of you chose to come here. Did anybody choose not to come here? You can go if you'd like. All of you made a choice. I don't know how that choice was arrived at. I don't know if it was a family member that had experience at the Citadel. I don't know what got you here, but here's what I do know. You understood what you were signing up for. You were signing up for something different, something unique, something that most people really don't have a lot of contact with anymore. We've been the all-voluntary military since the 70s. I think my class, I graduated in 73 from high school. It shows you how old I was. I think I was in the last class to be eligible for the draft for the Vietnam War. Since then, those who serve in uniform choose to do it. They don't have to. And you could have gone to probably any college you wanted to, because to get in here is academically challenging, but it's more about grades. It's about who you are. So what I want to ask a question before I start, how many of you were born before 9/11 September 2001? Well, so here's what I've learned in the last 19 years. I'll tell you about that day at the end, but here are the takeaways. And the takeaways come from the following: 56 visits to Iraq and Afghanistan that I can count. since 9/11, mostly with my dear friend John McCain, who I miss. 56 visits, I have learned a lot. I learned what works and what doesn't. My takeaways come from being an Air Force reservist in Iraq and Afghanistan, dealing with the rule of law as a judge advocate, spending a lot of time in Iraqi and Afghan prisons where you get to see the nature of the enemy up close and personal. My contribution was small compared to most, but what I learned as a senator was important. What I learned as a colonel was invaluable. So here's the takeaways of the last 19 years. Who's the enemy? When you asked America, who are we fighting? I think the general concept is radical Islam. What have I learned about the enemy? They will kill you if they could. What have I learned about the enemy? They want to master religion for the world as the Nazis wanted a master race. What have I learned about the enemy? The true believers are uncompromising. Death is first prize in their world. Most of us want to live a long, full life. In their world, there is no better way to serve Allah than to die in the cause. When you're dealing with people who embrace dying, you've got a challenge on your hand. Do you all agree with that? So we have to be smart, we have to be clever, and we have to realize that you may be tired of fighting them, they are not tired of fighting you. 19 years ago, 3,000 Americans died because a handful of people, about 18, were able to train, equip, and carry out suicide missions that inflicted the most damage on the American homeland since the Civil War. It was a military operation with a tremendous return on investment. Why did 3,000 Americans die on 9/11? They couldn't think of a better way to kill more of us. One of the takeaways, and you need to remember this for the rest of your lives, if radical Islam could find a way to kill 300 million Americans, they would. And the reason we haven't been attacked substantially since 9/11 is not because they've lost the desire. It's because we've disrupted their operations. And if you don't remember that, and you don't understand that, the next attack will be more lethal because the capability to kill in the last 19 years has gone up, not down. The coronavirus is an example of what nature can do to a society. What if you could weaponize something like this? Ladies and gentlemen of the Citadel, they're thinking every day, plotting and scheming every day to acquire weapons to inflict as much damage on their enemies as possible. Who are their enemies? Tolerance. Muslims in the faith who do not buy into their ideology. Libertarians, vegetarians, Christians, Jews. Anybody that will not bow to their view of God. That is who we're fighting. The fact that 3,000 died was not because of anything they did. It's the most they could do on that day. And I'm here to tell you, if they could do more, they would. What else have I learned? The war won't end because you want it to end. You're going to fight those radical Islamists somewhere, either in our backyard or their backyard. What have I learned after 19 years? The only reason they're not here today is because we kept them pinned down over there. I hear a lot of talk in my party and the Democratic Party about ending endless wars. Question: how do you end a war when the other side still wants to fight? So it's not a question of ending the war, it's a question of sustainable security. Has anyone ever mentioned to you what victory looks like? Does anyone use the term winning in the war on terror 19 years later? Other wars, it was pretty easy to understand, General, how you win. You take Tokyo, you take Berlin, you sink their navy, you shoot down their air force. The war that we're in is as lethal as any other war we've been in, but there's no capital to conquer, there's no navy to sink, there's no air force to shoot down. So what have I learned? That this ideology, if not dealt with, can kill a lot of people. If you do it smartly, you can stay safe. Here's the good news. After 50-something trips to the region, most of the people over there are not buying what these bastards are selling. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan. I have formed relationships with people who will risk their lives to reject this ideology. I've come to conclude after 19 years that most mothers and fathers do not want to turn their daughters over to ISIS unless they have to. To say they're all the same is a demeaning, hateful concept. Most Muslims in this world today, and there are over 1 billion, are not the enemy of the United States. What have I learned after 19 years? You will fight this war with partners, or you'll fight it by yourself. I choose partners. I have learned that most people over there want a better life. They want the same thing for their family that you want for yours, but they need our help to achieve it. I have learned that radical Islam will over time be defeated. I am as certain of that today as I am of anything else. But between now and then, the question is, how many people will die? So, to the cadets of the Citadel, we're about to pass you the baton. How many of you are thinking about a career in the military? If you choose that path, God bless you. Know what you're signing up for. You're signing up for a difficult life, but a rewarding life. As officers, you're going to be expected to lead and put others secondary to yourself. If you choose that life and you choose that path, you choose danger. 20 individuals who have attended the Citadel have fallen since 9/11. I have their names. All of them were sitting where you're sitting today. And in an instant, their life changed. They made a decision to run to the fire, run into the building, like the firemen and the policemen. They chose a path that was exceedingly dangerous. They paid the ultimate price. They had the same hopes and dreams that you have, and they were denied what I've been able to enjoy, a long life. To those who fell, God bless you. You died over there to keep us safe here. I believe with all my heart and soul that if we do not have some American service members, people from the intel community, working with people on the ground in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria, it will be just a matter of time until radical Islam regenerates and our homeland will be at risk. What have I learned in the last 19 years? You don't need 100,000 troops to keep America safe. But if you go to zero, you're making a very dangerous choice. Afghanistan tomorrow, 19 years after 9/11, there will be a dialogue between the Taliban and the Afghan government that gives me the most hope I've had in 19 years to end the conflict inside of Afghanistan honorably. The Taliban to be reintegrated into a constitutional republic, acknowledging the rights of women and embracing tolerance. They can have their say, but they can't run the place. If that happens, if there is a reconciliation between the Taliban and the rest of Afghanistan, it will be because of the 20. It will be because of all those who chose to go over there and give the Afghan people the ability to fight back. What have I learned in 19 years? Most people in Afghanistan do not want to go back to the good old days of the Taliban. But our enemy is not the Taliban. Our enemy is a radical ideology that manifests itself in the form of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra, a laundry list of radical groups who have it as their mission and their purpose to purify the faith, to destroy the state of Israel, and to destroy our way of life because they believe we are infidels in the eyes of God. 19 years ago on this date, they chose to attack 3 targets. The World Trade Center, which is a symbol of capitalism, of economic independence. They chose to attack the Pentagon, which is a symbol of military might. The third plane was coming for the Capitol, but it didn't make it because the first counterattack of the war on terror was on Flight 93. That's when average, everyday Americans getting on a plane, expecting to arrive at their destination safely, found themselves at a crossroads in history. That's when they decided to fight back, knowing death awaited them. Why do I know we will win this war? Because that's who we are. A random group of Americans with nothing seemingly in common other than a love of their country. If you join the military and you fall in one of these faraway places, you will have been a warrior for tolerance. You'll have been a warrior for choosing your own leaders. You will have been a warrior for freedom of expression. You will have been a warrior for freedom of religion. If you fall in the defense of liberty, in the defense of your homeland. So 19 years later, I am more optimistic about containing and eventually marginalizing the threat from radical Islam than any time in recent memory. A peace agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, and now Bahrain, will be signed next Tuesday. That means the Arabs and the Jews of the region have decided to find a new pathway forward. Who's the biggest loser? Radical Islamists who want to destroy the state of Israel. Something's going on in the Arab world that we need to embrace. Young Arabs throughout the world, young Muslims, are standing up and stepping up. They're brave. They're willing to take a stand. They're willing to do things new and different. It is your job and my job to have their back. What have I learned after 19 years? You will never win this war through military force. That's an odd thing to say about a war. But I promise you, you will not win this war by dropping bombs on terrorists alone. The key to winning this war is providing capability to those who have the will to fight back. The key to winning this war is giving a young woman over there a say about the future of her children. Building a schoolhouse in a remote region of Afghanistan, Syria, or Iraq, allowing a young woman to go to school and have a voice, will do more to destroy this ideology than any bomb America could make. I know America is frustrated. I know Americans are weary of dealing with those people over there. But to my fellow citizens, this war is not about those people over there. It's about mankind. As the Nazis wanted to purify the world and create the master race, the radical Islamist wants to purify religion in their own making. What have I learned after 19 years? If you turn away from hate, you will regret it. When they took the first woman into the soccer stadium in Kabul and killed her for sport or wearing the burqa too short, to think that they would not come for us was a mistake I will never make again. When they blew up the statues of Buddha because they didn't want an image of another religion to be allowed to exist, to think they're not coming for you was a mistake. What have I learned after 19 years? We're going to fight these bastards. We're going to do it smartly. We're going to get people over there to do more, so we do less. We're going to do more than kill. We're going to build. We're going to create economic alliances that are good for us and good for them. The terrorists, they offer a glorious death. It is up to us to offer a hopeful life. A hopeful life so people can reject the ideology. What does winning look like? When the rule of law replaces the rule of gun. When people over there believe that the military is on their side, not against them. When they believe the judicial system works and they don't have to form their own militia. When people believe that if they work hard, there's hope for a better life. To the men and women of the Citadel, if you choose the path of military service, it will be to the benefit of others over there that you made that choice. But the biggest winner will be your family members. If I could find a way to keep America safe and nobody have to leave the country to go in harm's way, I would do it. There's been some discussion lately about generals in war. Let me tell you my takeaway after 19 years of meeting every commander in Iraq and Afghanistan multiple times. Nobody hates war more than the soldier. Nobody despises war more than the commander who has to write the letter to the loved one about the fallen. That I know for sure. But here's what I also know. That they keep going over there because they've seen what it could be like for us if we don't. They've seen the face of the enemy. They know what awaits us if we give in. My goal is to create sustainable security. My goal is to make sure that we can protect America smartly, that we ask more of others, that we reduce the risk to our forces, but we do not turn our back on the threat. I don't know what will happen 19 years from now. My hope is that the countries where this started will begin to reconcile among themselves, and treaties between Israel and Arabs will grow, not lessen. The military over there will be more capable, so we don't have to use ours so often. That is my hope. The baton is being passed to you. This is a strange war. A new generation, 19 years after the event that started it, is going to be given the baton because it's not over. I'm asked all the time, Senator Graham, when can we leave? And my response is, it's not about the day we leave, it's about what we leave behind. We're better today than we were last year. They're more capable than they were last year. Things are changing for the better. People in the region are tired of war. They're seeking peace. They're laying aside old, timeless differences. This is the most exciting time for the Mideast in the last 19 years. Why? Because of the 20. Because Americans were willing to confront evil after 9/11. We ignored every warning sign to our detriment, but once we were attacked, everything changed. I will end where I started. That day, I was getting ready to go to work, and my office called and said, turn on the television. One tower was smoking, and we were trying to figure out what happened, General. As I was talking to my office, the second one flew into the second tower, second plane. I knew exactly what was going on. I'd written an op-ed piece the day before, September the 10th, 2001, about terrorism, and I had a paragraph about bin Laden. To those who follow this stuff, the warning lights were red. I'm here to tell you the danger still exists. So when the attack happened, they wanted us to evacuate, but nobody knew where to go. People in my office, General, were told to leave. To go where? They came to my house. There was no plan. I remember Flight 93 was heading our way, Washington. I remember the F-16s flying over the Capitol. I remember panic and fear by all of us, not knowing what's going to happen next. 19 years later, I learned, much sooner actually, that the reason the plane did not make it to the Capitol is because average, everyday Americans decided to do something about it. They made a choice. They chose to fight back, and they saved the greatest symbol of democracy, I think, on the planet, the Capitol. But if they had hit the Capitol, we would have built it back, as we did the Pentagon, as we did the World Trade Center. So I want to acknowledge today the bravery of those people 19 years ago on this date that saved our Capitol. I want to acknowledge the firefighters and the policemen who went into the burning buildings. I will never forget that day as long as I live. And I think it is fitting and proper that I recall and share with you my takeaways, because it is going to fall on your shoulders. I hope, in some small way, that I made a case for the idea that radical Islam has to be confronted, not ignored. I hope I've made a case that it can be defeated and will be. I hope I made the case that if you join the military, God bless you. I hope I made the case that you need to do it eyes wide open. I hope I've made the case that if you fall in the service of your country and the war on terror, you have fallen protecting your homeland, your way of life, and everything we hold near and dear. I hope that if you choose the military path, you have a successful career, and God will watch over you. To those who do not go in the military, there are so many ways to serve America. 19 years later, here's my advice to you. Remember 9/11. Learn from 9/11. Never let this happen to your country again. God bless you all.
Senator Graham, thank you for your inspiring remarks. Thank you for imparting your knowledge of what you've learned the past 19 years. As a token of our appreciation for your continued service and dedication to the Citadel in this country, we present you with a picture of Paget Thomas Barracks.
Go Dogs! Thank you all.